Welcome, everyone. Thanks for joining us this evening, wherever you're joining us from. I hope you've had a good day. And this is the end of January, and I hope that you have done something to remember January for good. Thanks for joining us. This is Cybersecurity Mentoring Group. If you are joining us for the first time, welcome. Cybersecurity Mentoring Group is a platform where we share, we learn, and we connect with professionals. We do this every other Saturday, and we invite professionals in cybersecurity or affiliate profession to come share with us their experience and journey and get us better prepared for our own career. Today, we have invited someone too, and before I get into the conversation, I would like to just run through some information for everyone. Yeah, so if you are joining us for the first time, we've been doing this for a while, and last year we spoke to 26 professionals. So you can take a look at the screen, the topics. All these are available on our YouTube channel. You can go there and have for yourself any of the topic that looks interesting. And what we're trying to do is to make sure that we build enough competence of the community. So the Cybersecurity Mentoring Group is a community online on LinkedIn, and we also have a private WhatsApp group where we share resources and programs that can help people increase their competence in cybersecurity or transition into cybersecurity. So we invite professionals, in quote, experts in their different areas to come share with us first their journey into or in cyber, and also how everyone can benefit from the emerging economy. So if you are interested in any of the topics, you can just check on our YouTube channel and have yourself a good time. Last year also, we had 3 programs. So these are programs that we organize, get professionals who are willing to impart knowledge to come share with us. And from our research, we identify 3 main disciplines or 3 main careers that cybersecurity seems to be seems to be having a lot of attention. Security operations seems to be number 1, and so we had an 8-week program where the basics and also the practical application of security operations was applied. So we use Microsoft Security Operations Analyst curriculum to cover that aspect. Also, we had Beginner Cybersecurity Masterclass, where we used ISC2CC, which is a Certificate in Cybersecurity module, to cover and introduce people to cybersecurity. The last was Identity and Access Management. Again, Identity and Access Management is one of the top role that were advertised in our research, and we also use Microsoft to cover that. And each of these programs ran for 8 weeks. Yeah, 8 weeks, about 15 to 16 lectures. Going forward, this year, in fact, today we completed the Beginner Cybersecurity Masterclass 2.0, the same ISC2CC, but we introduced IT fundamentals because we saw that there was a gap in the previous program where people don't seem to have good understanding of IT. So we introduced IT fundamentals, and then we built on the other 5 modules, which are CC programs. From next week, Thursday precisely, we'll be starting application security. This program, we got the most application. We had to shut it down after 48 hours. So currently, we are oversubscribed. We have also notified selected candidates, and with a clause that this is not a guarantee that they will be admitted if they turn up late. we have a maximum of 100 that Zoom can take. So that will be the max that we can take. If they don't show up, we will allot their vacant position to people that are waiting. We have over 50 people that are on the waiting list. So my hope is that they turn up, but if they don't, by first class or first lecture, we will reassign their role to other people so that we can accommodate as many people as possible for the program. And it's going to run for 8 weeks. Again, these programs are free of charge to attendees. All thanks to the facilitators, because without them, we will not be able to have this engagement. They volunteer their time to contribute to the cybersecurity community, and we have them to thank for that. Yeah, this is a program that is going to happen, I think, in March. One is in March, the other is in June, I think. So the first one, which is the CISSP success story, if you are familiar with cybersecurity, CISSP is regarded as the gold standard certification in cybersecurity. And we thought that people can share their success story, especially how they prepared and how they were able to nail the exam. It is on record that a lot of people who take the exam fail. In fact, I saw someone, or I read someone who said he took the exam 6 times before he was able to pass. So we will be having people come share their story on how they succeeded one attempt or after 2 attempts. The second is also a similar certification, which is CSM, and that will happen sometime in June next year. Again, all of this is to help people prepare their minds and get them ready to take advantage of the opportunity in cybersecurity. All right, I think we should get right into there's another slide. So these are the 2 sessions we have had in 2026, the first on the left and the second on the right, and all of these are available on our YouTube channel. You can check the link and have spent one hour plus to catch up on any of them that you find interesting. Yeah, so leveraging AI for audit, GRC service delivery. So I reached out to Kevin. Kevin and I worked together when we were in InterSwitch, and he's a lovely guy. So we connected again on LinkedIn, and we're sharing, as Kevin's loads of ideas. So we're talking about AI, and he was showing me things that he has done or is doing, and now is doing wonders with AI. And I said that AI is actually something that a lot of people are not familiar with, and we can share something for them to get started that conversation, especially in cyber. And I know because of our reach, we have been able to convince other people of the benefits of AI. So we have people who are not cybersecurity professionals on the call. Don't worry, Kevin will touch on general areas on how you can leverage AI, at least maybe share some information on why you should be interested in what is happening in AI. So, Kevin, I think I should give you the floor because I want to get the best out of you today. Welcome, and you can take over and let's AI.
Okay, thank you very much, Wale. Just so that I can see, I want to share my screen.
Go ahead.
Please let me know when you can see my screen.
It's up now.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending where you're connecting from. I believe there are people connecting from all over different time zones. So first of all, before I go ahead to introduce myself, I just want to say that it's been a while. Myself and Wally have been having this conversation with regards to, coming on his platform and talking about something, anything at least. And we decided to settle for the AI topic because this is something for the past few years I have been very passionate about. And before I go ahead to introduce myself, I would just like to pose a little bit of question to everybody here that is connected as to how they're using AI in the different spaces. So based on my experience, what I have seen is that a lot of people use AI as a summary tool. Maybe summarize this document very fast, convert this to bullet points. I don't know. I'm sure each and every one of us here must be guilty of using AI in this way. But right now, the idea is for us to understand that the implementation of AI goes beyond everything you can actually imagine. So the applicability of of AI itself is actually based on you. So wherever your knowledge stops is where your implementation of AI also stops. If you see it as a tool for summarizing document, that is all it's going to be. You might even do it very poorly if you don't prompt it properly. And if you see it as much more, that's also what you can achieve. So one of my biggest takeaway from this session is that I would love at the end of this session, everybody to go back and think about what you've heard, see how you can implement AI in your work as GRC experts, as cybersecurity experts, as audit experts as well, and try to improve on a day-to-day practicability and use of different AI solutions. And yeah, so I'm hoping that at the end of this session, we'll be able to, have very good information, and I will be able to do justice to this topic. So now, we're talking about the future of governance. I don't know if this is about the future, but because personally, I think it's already happening now. But over the last few weeks, I've actually had a lot of conversations with different GRC experts in Nigeria, and I can tell you that it's correct to say the future. And before we go ahead, I would like to introduce myself and give you a little bit of background. My name is Kevin. I'm from Nigeria. I'm currently living in Spain, Barcelona. I've been here for almost the last 5 years. And my journey from audit, actually from banking to audit to GRC to risk, has been quite wonderful. And throughout that journey, I have met quite a number of people in that time, including Wale. Wale was actually my hiring manager when I was back in Nigeria. And I remember during the interview, he asked me a question, and I said, can I have a minute to think about this, please? And he said, yes. I think that was one of our first encounters. And since that time, I've been able to, transition into different roles within the GRC space. I currently have over 9 years experience in auditing, in GRC, and also managing technology risks. I've worked across different sectors of industries, including banking, fintech, and global FMCG. During my time at global FMCG, I had the opportunity of visiting over 13 countries to conduct audits in all of them and lead a team of technology auditors. Currently, I still manage one of the audit teams as a technology audit team in one of the biggest fintechs in Europe, or maybe even globally. And it's really nice meeting all of you here. And I hope that at the end of this session, we would have had an amazing time talking about AI. So, very quick one before we start. I would like to ask us here that how do you use AI in your organization? What is the best implementation that you have seen about AI being used in your current workspace, especially if you're a GRC expert, a risk person, or a control manager? What is the best way you've seen AI being used in your area? And these are some of the questions that triggered my interest into this topic and the potential for improvements that we can have by implementing AI into our processes, how we can be more efficient, and how we can be able to leverage the resources of the system itself. So if we talk about how we generally apply our processes in GRC, for example, we are in the method of carrying out, let's say, a risk assessment. When you want to add an asset to your environment, somebody goes, assess the inherent risk, come out with an inherent risk score. You design controls for those risks, and you have them tracked one way or the other, either through Excel or any other tools. You have risk personnel, control personnel, everybody working hand in hand, and the auditors themselves having this kind of handshake across different departments just to ensure that the enterprise is running very well. But if we take a look at this approach, what happens is over time, we end up looking at a very small section of the risks that actually faces that the company or the enterprise actually faces. And that is because we apply a level of sampling when we are testing for these risks. We sample for logs, we sample for transactions, we sample for historical events. We're not able to look at the entire population of data because, I mean, as human beings, we are limited in our approach. But then in the last few years, we've been seeing how AI has been growing in terms of implementation across multiple industries, across multiple organizations. Now, for this presentation, I will split my presentation into two. The first one, I will be talking about the things I put down in this slides. Honestly, I hope at the end of the slide, everybody's clear on what is in there, because I spoke to my wife and she said it's fine. So, and I'm sure she's not wrong. And the second part will be a live demo where I will show us some of the things that myself and my team were building as a prototype to show you how we can automate the entire GRC flow and turn each and every one of us from just monitoring staff to actual AI orchestrators in the sphere of risk and control management, basically. And I hope that at the demo level, I could wake us up. If my presentation is boring, when we get to the demo, I hope things get very, very lively. So here we go. Now, I was talking about the bottlenecks we've been facing so far in the GRC space. And here I just create a very short summary of the 4 different areas where we have kind of fragmented processes in how we take care of our GRC space today in different enterprises. This is not limited, it's not a limited list, but it's some of the major ones that I felt like we all go through day to day. And the first one is our data silos. Now we have risk, compliance, and audit teams operating differently or separately from themselves. So the audit guys comes maybe once every quarter. The risk guys also have their own thing. The compliance guys have their own thing. And everybody is kind of like working in different silos. And some people have more information than the others. And, the audit guys, they come in, they have just a very short time to perform their audits because audits are usually very structured. There's a start date, there's an end date to the audit. Now, working in these silos have not made us very efficient because we end up with issues whereby after an audit, you look at the report and you're like, honestly, I don't think there's much I don't see much value in this report. And one of the reasons we have those experiences is because of the sampling that we go through when we run an audit. Now, the second part is so sample-based testing, basically. The third part will be our reactive posture. So that means when incidents happen in an organization or something went wrong at some point in time, some people have the information as to what went wrong, while the others, especially the auditors, are finding out maybe during the next quarter review or during the next half-year review and stuff like that. And the last part is the fatigue of combining different systems to make your report. You're copying from here, you're copying from there, you're collecting screenshots here and putting them together to form kind of a sensible output for your organization. And when we look at these different silos, we start to understand that there's kind of a need to bridge all these gaps one way or the other. Because at the end of the day, what you find is that you're not really managing risks, you're just managing frictions across different departments. And once you get into that loop, before you know it, there is a fatigue that starts to occur between teams. Every time I see an auditor's message, I would just sigh because I know that this is just another friction in the process. This gets a very, very tiring and really frustrating, So now, when you think about this scenario that I've painted, as a GRC expert, as somebody who has been in the system, the first thing you would want to think about is how can we close this gap? And this is where AI agents come into play. Now, there are different implementations of AI agents across different industries, but I want to focus this presentation around GRC and audits, how we can implement these agents in our own departments to get the best value out of each other. But then let me just take a very quick pause and put out a question, right? So let's say you have an agent, and maybe Wale, if there's anybody that responded, you can just give it back to me very quickly so we can continue. Let's say you've deployed an AI agent, right? And the AI agent is designed to help you negotiate third-party contracts with your third-party vendors. Now, during that process, the AI agent breached your internal policy, that's your data privacy policy, while negotiating that contract. At this point, who is to blame? Is it the person who activated the agent or the person who designed the prompts? I hope the question is clear. So while we're answering the first one, the second question will be, in this time of AI, do you think that sampling data during analytics, during analysis and stuff, when you're sampling data now that we have AI in place, are you still going to call that actual managing of risks or just compliance theater? That's the second question there. And the last question is, I know over time, we've all been worried about shadow IT. This has been a very long risk running in almost every single organization, right? Have we thought about shadow training where employees are uploading full internal documents and policies into public LLMs and asking for faster returns on analysis or summaries and stuff like this? Because if we're not worried about shadow training and we're only worried about shadow IT, then maybe we need to start, doing much more within our space. So while I continue the presentation, I want us to think about these questions as we go along, and towards the end, we can then maybe have a very short discussion before the demo or after the demo, whichever one is much better. But I think these are things that we need to start thinking about seriously. So now, when we talk about GRC and AI, why now? Why do we think that right now it is really, really important for us to delve into this area, ensuring that we create a harmony between AI and GRC for organizations? And the first one is regulations. In the past few years, there have been a very high increase in the number of regulations that is being passed across the world, from different countries to different regions. The EU has theirs, NIST framework, different countries like Nigeria, China, South Korea, and the rest of that. They've all published different regulations on how to use AI within their geographies. And it's not very easy to keep up with all of these policies by assigning them to human beings to read through, understand, design controls, ensure that all the risks are covered. I don't think you can even hire an army of GRC specialists to do all of this for you, especially if you're working in a company that operates across multiple regions and you are the head of the team who has to oversee all the activities in these regions. Now, the second part is in the velocity of the risks that comes with all of these threats now of AI. We have people developing deep fakes. We have people that are also developing, AI-generated images to beat banks' transaction system or to beat banks' profiling systems. And also we have the data debt crisis. Now, I want to share something with you guys, which is I've been working in an international organization for close to 2 years now. And in that 2 years, as a technology audit manager, I have only sent out 7 emails because everything is done via Slack, including notices of audits, sharing of reports, and every other thing is done via Slack. So things like this can be very difficult to manage in the GRC space, understanding what is being shared, what is being passed around, So all these things call for us to have a new approach as to how we manage these risks within our different environment. And that's why right now we need the GRC team to start implementing AI on a much, much different level. So another goal I have for this presentation is to move us from thinking of AI as a tool and moving towards seeing AI as a workforce. Now, I will give a very good example of one of the very good implementation that I have seen while traveling of how people have deployed AI in their environment. And the first one is the fact that I've seen a team who don't use AI as a chatbot in terms of like maybe converting policies to this and summarizing this text or that text, but instead they have built agents as an end-to-end evidence collection system across the multiple systems that they have in their organization. So they have agents that are collecting real-time data, and they have the orchestrator who is looking at all the data, the ones that have been classified as a pass, a fail, or a warning that they need to review and stuff like this. So you have one GRC person who is managing, let's say, tens of agents, bots that are just giving him data. He is not sitting down to do a risk assessment. He's not sitting down to design controls. He's not doing all of that. Now he is fine-tuning. He is configuring agents. He is designing his own custom agents based on different interactions with the data within the system that he has seen. So it turns the local GRC person into a musical orchestrator, basically, but this time around for agents across different systems. And this shows you the level of efficiency and effectiveness that you can move from as a GRC expert, from looking at traditional systems and traditional documents and managing so many Excels, into managing different agents. And all you need to do is work on how good your prompt is, and you're using prompt as code for those agents to carry out the work. So this is what we currently do, a lot of us. We are the human being at the top level, and right now we are outsourcing thinking. We're outsourcing thinking to ChatGPT. We're outsourcing our thinking to Gemini. We're outsourcing a lot of our thinking to all these models, and they summarize the work. What we do is we copy and we paste. We copy and we paste. And if you look at this image, this diagram, you will see that at the end of the day, we're not really training our brains. And we know that every single muscle in the body, if you don't train it, it's going to die. And the brain is also a part of that body. If we don't train our brain as to how to become better in what we're doing, we will not have the capability to really carry out very, tasking executive functions. We have found a way to copy paste every answer we received from AI. And even some people don't even fact check the results anymore. They just take it as law and use that in the different reports. I'm sure a lot of people are actually guilty about this. There is no need to feel that way. I'm sure God will forgive you in some ways, but yeah. And I'm hoping that also at the end of this presentation, we move to this. And in this system, we are orchestrating with the agents. We are working together with AI. We are becoming a much better person in GRC. We're looking at the results. We are changing the prompts. We're changing the configurations. We're integrating into more systems. And we are actually doing work that has meaning and gives reasonable output that people can actually see and relate to, basically. And one of the ways we can think about this is building an agent that actually goes into your SIEM solution, your log collection solutions, your GitHub, and retrieve those informations that is being, published there directly from those source systems and bring them to you for analysis, or even analyze it and just bring them to you to verify the results. And what we see here is that we're not automating our job. We're automating the friction. We're automating the drudgery, the tiredness, that friction that exists between different teams. That's what we're trying to automate, not our job itself. But then for us to be able to get to that point, we also need to upskill ourselves as GRC staffs or GRC persons. Now, this is what I like to call a GRC symphony. And in case you don't know, this is actually divided into 3 sections. The first part is the metaphor. The second part is what I call the secret sauce. And the third part is the ecosystem of trust. Now, if you look at the first part, we've broken it down into 2 things. The conductor, which is the human being, and the orchestra, which are the agents themselves. We say something like, oh, AI is coming to take my job. No, AI is turning you into a different kind of GRC specialist. So in this case, you are still responsible for the strategy, basically. You are responsible for the strategy, and the AI is responsible for the execution of your strategy. And so when the strategy is wrong, it's going to come back with also a very bad or wrong feedback. So don't see AI as something that is trying to steal your job, but see it as a tool or as basically your workforce that you need to do your job much, much better. So now the second part is what I call the secret sauce, which is where you are giving prompts that is contextually aware of what is going on. We're not talking about summarizing policies now. We're talking about ingesting policies, converting policy to code, and creating agents that will be able to use that code to create controls, monitor those controls, and give you efficient feedback. We're talking about task sequencing. That means when an agent discovers an issue or a risk, what is the next thing? What should it do? Should it raise a risk? Should it notify somebody? What are the connected processes that you want the agent to help you achieve? And the third part is the logs. That is where we have the human in the loop. Every single activity that is being done by those agents is being watched by somebody. Somebody can see all the decisions the agent was making. He or she can take a walk back and see what are the systems that was reviewed, what is the finding, how did it achieve this success or fail score. So we have a human in the loop at every single point in time to create that transparency between the agents, the process, and the system itself. And the last part I call the ecosystem of trust. Now, the ecosystem of trust is where we are defining the policies that we use to guide the AI's work itself. So policy as code, you have NIST framework that have defined some policies for basically AI integrations within the organizations. And we're putting all of this together to form a robust system that comes around and make us more effective and more efficient at the work we do on the day-to-day basis. And now, one thing we've understood is that these agents that we're building, they can understand natural language, basically, and they can scan your systems using those natural language to give you very important output. You're not writing code per se, you are designing prompts that are efficient and effective. Now, in terms of the controls around the agents themselves, we're talking about governing the governors. That means we have agents running around in the system, right? Okay, what happens when something fails? What happens when an agent takes an action? Who is responsible for all of this? How do we ensure we can trace back everything that has been, that has been done by these agents themselves? And that's where we have these 3 levels. That's transparency, accountability, and reliability of the system. Now, in terms of transparency, we're talking about the traceability of the logs. Every single AI action must be logged. Every single decision must also be logged. And in terms of tracing the connectivity between the process, the system, and the agents themselves, all of that has to be in a very controlled system that allows the GRC person to be able to, fine-tune the rules over time and make the system much, much better. In terms of accountability, we must always have a human in the loop. Now, a human in the loop means if an agent detects that, oh, you have a staff who has resigned, no longer available on the Active Directory, but still has access on the payroll system, this is where the human in the loop comes in to take the action. You don't expect the AI to disable that person immediately, but the AI will tell you that, hey, you have something that is sticking out that you need to, fix. And reliability when it comes to continuous monitoring, continuous fine-tuning by the different, the people that are in charge of these agents themselves. I want us to see these agents as our own team. I don't like to call them agents, just say your team of agents that you're controlling. They are within your scope. You are the one fine-tuning them. So when they spill out, incorrect information, you have to go back and see how your implementation looked from the beginning and know where things went wrong, especially when you're getting a lot of false positives, a lot of alerts that doesn't really make so much sense. You have to go back and fine-tune your system. Now, finally, I will say this is what an orchestration architecture should look like when you've designed a complete system. First, you have to define the mission. The second part, you have to deploy your agent. The third, you have to have a common language for all your data systems that you've integrated together. The fourth, you need to have the human in the loop. And the fifth, you need to transition from just doing work to managing agents. And when I say doing work, I mean all those quarterly reviews, weekly reviews, and the rest of that. You have agents do them and you become much more effective on your delivery of work. So again, this is what an orchestrator would look like. Human in the middle, and you're managing all of this almost automatically. And again, AI is not here to replace the human being, but instead it's here to make us much more efficient, much more effective in how we execute our work on a daily basis. So that means a lot of us are having quite a number of anxiety around AI this, AI that, AI this. The only people that will be replaced will be the people who didn't learn how to use AI to make their systems better. So we're no longer doing compliance work. We're now going further to design trust within the system. So we're not doing jobs that require so much friction, but we've automated all of that friction to ensure that we have a smooth system. And in an era like this, one of the biggest currency that you can have is certainty. Certainty that your systems are working, certainty that your systems are not exposed to external or internal threats, and certainty that you will be alerted when you have anything that you need to take care of almost automatically. And for the first part, I would say thank you. I was trying to manage my time so I can have some time for a demo section. But I don't know if anybody has a question, or Wale, how does these things go?
I think there are questions, and so there's a hand up. I will just unmute the person. Isuna, you can unmute and then ask your question.
Okay,
please
thank you so much.
Make it short because we still have some practical session to catch up on. Thank you.
Yeah. Yes. So thank you so much. Thank you, Kelvin, for this wonderful, because for me, I'm in that space and I currently think on how to do it. But one concern I have is, how have you been able to manage it? The top management, you can't bring this to them. They'll tell you, oh, you have something that can do 3 people's work. So they are thinking from the cost perspective. You are thinking from more, will I call it, efficiency and strategy. But so how have you been able to manage it, bringing this kind of innovation to their attention and still managing to make them understand, no, they are just trying to make work effective and not to cut costs? That's my question.
Okay, thank you very much. Like I said at the beginning, I was actually smiling because this is a very huge concern for a lot of people. And in case I haven't mentioned this, I am actually the co-founder of RegentComply.ai. So for the most part of things, we have been talking to quite a number of heads of departments in GRC. And I would say there has been a lot of skepticism and anxiety around this area, which is why I actually told Wale that I want to really talk about this in depth. And one thing I would say, first of all, is that if you don't bring it up to them, somebody will. One day they might even be on, some of them might even be on this call right now, and they're seeing that, oh, you even know something like this exists, and you haven't brought it to our attention. So I understand when it comes to looking at, oh, we have this X number of staff. If we implement this, a lot of people have to go. But to be fair, are we looking at things from that angle, or are we looking at things from the angle of ensuring that we have a secure enterprise? Because if we're going from the angle of having a secure enterprise, we will be targeting upskilling ourselves and be able to implement the best agents and have the best orchestrators. And this time, orchestrators are human beings that are managing all of these agents. Now, you're moving from a GRC person who is monitoring risk to the risk architect yourself. You're just transitioning your roles, basically. So that's what I will be selling to my management if I was in your position, that we need to transition everybody's role in a way that it's more effective in the risks that we're managing within the company. You understand? So that is what I will be selling. I'm not saying that, oh, there are no risks to people. There are risks to people, but the biggest risks are to the people who do not get better in what they're doing, catch up with the trend, and upskill themselves. I don't know if I'm able to answer your question. Hi, Zuna. Was I able to answer your question? Any other question?
Yes, there's another one.
Okay.
Let me read it out. My question is the current myth about organization adoption of AI by large organization. There are concerns about governance, data protection, governance, risk, and technology expansion to accommodate scalability. What are your advice to overcome this?
Sorry, can you take that question again?
The question is quite broad, but I think the person is talking about the concern or the myth about organization adoption of AI by large organization, and said there are concerns about governance, about data protection governance, about risk and technology. Are all of these concerns to you when you talk about adoption of AI? Is there a risk? Is there a myth? Is it a myth that people think there are data protection issues or risk problem or technology expansion? Are those concerns in your view?
Yes. So I think this is a very it's a very good question, and one that has been repeated across our calls with different leadership teams, right? And especially in Europe here. One of the things they always mention is the fact that there's a lot of standalone systems that may not really work well together. And there's also the issue of data protection, data leaving the sovereignty of the state or the country itself. Now, when it comes to AI, first thing you need to know is that it has been adopted already by everybody. That's the first thing you have to know. You have to understand that as an organization, you can even decide that, oh, we will create a rule that blocks people from accessing sites that have to do with AI. But I'm going to tell you one thing, it is impossible. So what do? We have to be at the forefront of whatever is coming. That means we, as the people in GRCs that have been tasked to protect the enterprise, we need to be at the forefront of creating the right controls, to put in place before these things become a reality. Now, let's go to your question on the size and technology. There are different technologies, there are different cloud solutions, there are different standalone solutions across different areas, right? What you need to do is understand how each of the solutions work. Where is the starting point of the data and where is the end point of the data? And if possible, where is the logs being collected from? You can start building agents that starts from the log collection part, and then as the system advances, you can build into the actual processes themselves. You have to take it step by step in your approach of the type of technologies that is being used, and also the kind of data protection laws that you're trying to comply to. So you need to move beyond the myth itself, because it is a reality. It's no longer a myth. There are solutions. In fact, there are GitHub that hosts cracked versions of LLMs that people use right now So rather than worry about the myth, I think we need to focus about the future and the controls we need to have in place to make us ready. Because tomorrow, if your leadership in your organization asks you that, hey, what is your plan for this? You cannot tell them it's a myth.
Kevin, there's a question. Chinagaram, you can unmute. Then we'll come up. I think there are a lot of questions people have to then answers to. So Chinagaram, you can unmute. After you, then we'll come up. Please make it brief so that we can move on to the next section. Chinagaram, you can go on. You have the floor. Okay, let me allow Ugo, please go on.
Ugo, yeah, thanks. Well, I'm here. Thanks. What an insightful presentation. I just have two quick questions. The first one is based on the first question you asked about, implementing agents, whether the agent has access to some sensitive information within the organization. At what level or at what layer should AI be applied? Should it be at the mercy of the user, or should it be applied at the policy level? I'm talking about AI controls now, because I know that some organizations limit AI application interaction with external, whether the internet or external databases. They just limit it to the local intranet. So at what level do you think AI control should be applied? The second one is, I think that regulation is lagging AI innovation and implementation. So what do you think organizations should be doing when regulation hasn't come up with all, their scope is quite limited on how organizations should be controlling the risks that are associated with AI implementation?
Thank you, Go. I mean, that's a very, very wonderful question. Wale, they're not keeping the question short, but okay, I will take it. So on the first part, the first question where you mentioned about control of AI levels, their access level, and different areas of your systems that they will be accessing, I would say the first thing you need to start with is what is your internal policy? What are the systems you've actually labeled as internal, confidential, restricted, and all of that? Because you have to build your agents with the right levels that you've set for those systems. When you have an agent that has been designed for restricted levels of information, you need to understand that the logs from those agents are also restricted. Now, there's something that I think most people don't understand, which is the fact that when you implement an AI system within your environment, within your company itself, there are controls. Like, for example, the agent is hosted on the VPC, which means that it's accessing data within your environment. It is not sharing your data with an external model. What the AI is doing is that it's borrowing intelligence from the external model to apply to your systems. And so that's why I said when we move from just reviews to orchestrating, you can be able to improve yourself in how you're designing your prompts and your agents and what they can do within your environment. So when you have an agent that needs to access or analyze a restricted system, that agent itself become a restricted agent, and the data from the agent, the data in terms of the analysis is doing, the output becomes also restricted. So you're applying the same level of controls end to end, because even you yourself as a human being who is accessing that system, you cannot, convey that information outside of the people who are authorized to see that information. So you have to apply the same level of classification that is on that system, on the data itself, onto the agent. And when you're implementing this type of AI systems or these agents within your environment, you need to understand that there are controls that limits how the AI itself interacts between your internal environment and the external LLMs. And in terms of the external LLMs, what it's doing is it's borrowing intelligence to apply to your system and not sharing your data outside, depending on your configuration, I mean. And then also on that side, with regards to regulation lagging, one thing I can tell you is that during my time in Nigeria, I was the head of a GRC department for a major fintech. And during my time there was a lot of lag in regulations at that time because the regulators were not sure of what are the controls they need to come up with for these fintechs that are emerging, especially using digital platform to go across the system, across the country to access different customers and the rest of that. They didn't have enough information or enough controls to regulate these activities. And one thing I can tell you is that I had to come up with them by myself. And when we had the first CBN audit, they looked at the controls that I had designed and took that back to inform their people that this is what we currently have, and this is what we've seen in this company. This is what we've experienced. We saw the evidences and stuff, and they started walking their way backwards by building new regulations around those things that I've shown them. So at some point, when you say that the regulation is lagging, the moment a risk materializes, you're still the owner of that risk. So I would advise that while the regulation is trying to catch up, you need to be at the forefront of things. When you're exposed to the industry, there's a lot of information about different controls you can put in place. Start applying them within your environment. So when the regulators finally catch up, you will not be, trying to play catch up with them. You'll be way, way ahead of the risks. I don't know if I answered your question, Ugo.
Kevin, I think I'll answer on behalf of Ugo. Yes, you have.
Okay.
let's move on to the other aspect because of time.
Okay.
Let's see what we can do. Then we can come back with questions if we have more. I don't want to miss that. I don't want people to miss that practical session.
Okay. Just give me a second. I will share my screen, and I will try my best to be as quick as possible with this one, since we've taken much time in.
No, don't rush. I want people to get it. This practical session, I want people to get it. If you finish the practical session, then we can come back to question and answer. Yeah.
Okay.
You can expand your screen so that we can see maybe zoom to maybe 120. Yeah, it's fine.
Okay, this is good. Now, one thing I would like to add first before we start the session is that this is a demo, a prototype I'm actually building myself and my team. And this prototype is not live yet, but if you feel like if you're impressed with what we're doing, you can always reach out to us and we can have conversation outside of this call. So what you're seeing here is a full agentic system that will be able to carry out different works that the normal GRC person is going to be doing on a day-to-day. So if you're on this call and you think that everything we've been saying is far-fetched, it's in the distant future, it's not here yet, I think you should just watch and see how we've been able to automate so many parts of the GRC monitoring system, monitoring work itself. Now, what we're trying to display here is for an example of a company that just acquired a new asset, right? And as you can see, before this call, I just filled up the integrations part on the right of my screen, I think, right? Yes, on the right of my screen. And these two integrations are, the first one is for our Active Directory, where we've integrated with GCP. And the second one is our SIEM solution that's for SIEM, that's Security Information Event Management solution. This SIEM is to collect all the logs across different systems, and these are the two integrations we have. Now, we have an agent that is in charge of this part of the work. Now, the second agent is called the policy library. This is where we talked about policy as a code, codifying your policy in a way that it's easy for you to convert them to actual controls. And I will start by, I have some dummy policies, and we just take a look at that. Now, the policy control is not designed for just international standards. Internal policies also works. Any policy, it converts that to actual codes. And give me a second. I think I have some very interesting things. Yes, give me just a minute. Good. So we have the first one. And in this case, we will be using ISO 27001, or let's say a sample of it. And this is an international standard. And we click on ingest. Now here, the policy ingester, that's the agent in charge of this, will convert our policy into actual code that the system can, understand. So as we see here, there's now a summary of 5 controls that has been extracted from the excerpt I just pasted into the system. We'll go with the second one, which is another of my favorites, which is NIST framework. And by the way, I think my engineer is on this call. Good. So now we have these 2 policies that we've ingested into the solution. The first one is ISO 27001, and the second one is the NIST framework that are also converted to 5 different controls. This is an excerpt of the policies themselves, not the entire policy themselves, just for the sake of this demo. Now, let's say we just acquired a new system, so I will be adding a new asset, and let's call this asset our HR payroll. And the region is Europe, and we say this is our URL. This is, we classify this as a web application. It's hosted on GCP, and this is an internal application with a medium business criticality, and it's being owned by our IT director. Now we have the risk engine. The risk agent will be the one to analyze this asset based on all the classifications and generate our inherent risks. Now, this is another human being, basically, but in this case, an agent will generate your inherent risks for the assets you just added. And in case you see, okay, there's more risk I want to consider, you can just add it here manually. But then from here, we synthesize for controls. This is where the control agent comes in, looks at all the inherent risks, compares it to your policy that it has ingested to design your control framework for you. So let's give it a second. Good. So now we have our list of controls. And like I said, everything we have seen before or we have explained before in the presentation is what I'm trying to demonstrate to us right now. And now that the control agent has finished working, what it has done is it took the inherent risks and converted them to different controls. As you can see here, risk 1942, it's linking that risk to this control, and it's telling us that this will be the control owner will be finance. The standard it's referencing is ISO 27001, and what type of control is this? It's preventative, and its frequency for monitoring would be monthly, and this is a manual control. Now, if you go down, you will see something else, which is in cases where it finds 2 controls that are linked to 2 different policies, or 1 control linked to 2 different policies, it has recommended to merge those 2, and you have that here as well. Now, in cases where it identifies a control that needs to be, automated, it'll let you know, it just gives you a recommendation, basically. Now, I think somebody asked a question about discussing with the organization as to how we can implement this and still keep our people. Now, one thing I will say is that everywhere I see a manual control here is something I believe that can still be enhanced by the system to automate. So your people still have a lot of job to do, a lot of role to play within the system that we're designing. It's not like, oh, everything will now become, automated, but it can be just as the technology develops. So as you can see, a risk that is coming from a policy is RPOL, while the one coming from the risk agent is just R, then the number it's referencing. And we finalize this. Give it a second. Now, what we've also created here is what we call a universal compliance tag. This helps us to maintain different tags for compliance as regulations change over time. So even if 100 regulations come in, we know that the controls will fall into one of all these tags where we've combined different controls together. So if we have 2 or more controls that have, 2 different regulations, but the same control is being, classified into a universal tag, and then we're done. Now, this was our system before, and now this is what we have. We actually have a complete, a complete GRC platform that shows us our assets. It shows us the risk that we're carrying. And when you click on each risk, it actually expands your risk for you to see how the agents have described the risk that you're carrying and links them directly to the applicable control. So at every point in time, your data is completely synced across different systems, different platforms. From the moment you're adding those assets to your environment, everything is done, and this is taking you less than 5 minutes. This normally would be what you send to the GRC people. They do the risk assessment, they share the risk assessment with legal, and legal have a way to put that down in their contract. Then the GRC guys also come out with the controls. The manager looks at the controls and ensure that the controls are applicable, designs the frequency of and all these things takes a lot of back and forth, creates a lot of friction in the process. And right now, we have agents that can do them in less than 5 minutes. And then when we come to, in terms of performing our assessment, as you see, the system allows you to input your performance, pass or fail, put in your details and record your assessment. And for your agents that will be running assessment in areas where you have an automated control, you can just, deploy the agent, and immediately the agent is putting in natural language its own instructions. And all you need to do is choose which of the systems you want it to be getting the source of truth from. So in this case, I'm choosing the Google workspace as our source of truth for this agent to analyze the access for people having access to the HR system. Are they still part of the organization? Are they gone? So my source of truth is my Google workspace, and I will generate my execution plan. And at this point, I have my first agent that will be my SecOps analyst ready to work. So this is my first agent. Now, if I want to create another agent, I just go straight to my controls. I click on that and I deploy. So we go like that in different levels to deploy as much agents. And with time, when I'm seeing the results from the agents, I can always go back and fine tune my rules, fine tune what I'm, the kind of outputs I want to see. Maybe I'm getting a lot of false positives. I can just go there. And for the agent activities, we have what we call the agent vault, where we log all the agents' activities, the warning, the fails, the pass, and all of that. And you can see the data telling you exactly what the agent was doing and how it was coming up with all its justification. And for you, who is an officer carrying out your manual control review, we have that in the control vault as well. When you carry out a control and you've registered it in the system that this control has been done, it's also here. Now, please, if you have any questions on this solution, it's a prototype that we're still developing, so it's not yet fully operational. And I just wanted to share it with you so you understand that the future we're talking about is not far-fetched. It's here, and it's important for each and every one of us to upskill ourselves and make the best of the times that we currently have. Besides this, I don't think I have any more to share, except for the fact that I think just one last thing before we got to this the level of creating something like this. We had already created something very easy for IT auditors. I think this one is also live, basically, where we have a system that allows you to create your audit reports in seconds, because we understood that a lot of auditors, they have a lot of findings, but when it comes to sitting down to write their findings themselves, it's quite cumbersome. So that's where we started developing, and this one is live. You can test it when you feel like. The URL I can share with Wale, and he can share with us after this session. It's very easy to use. You have your executive summary if you're a manager, where you can combine your findings together and generate an executive summary based on those findings. And yeah, so I just want to say thank you very much for your time. Thank you for listening to me, and we're open to questions right now.
Thanks, Kevin. And thank you. I think I've seen some comments, but I've not seen any question. So it looks like magic. All right, let me read if I have any question. So Kevin, you can check the chat. There are many conversations in the chat.
Okay.
Okay, said, can you clarify how the remediation of risk identified is done? Is it by human or by the agent?
Yes. If you remember during the presentation, we talked about human in the loop. And this is where it is really important for each and every one of us to design systems that are fully transparent. We talked about one of the qualities of the system to be transparency, ensuring that every single item of the AI, of the agent, is being logged on the system. And that is where the human comes in. It takes you away from creating or doing all these quarterly reviews into actual work that creates much more meaning, basically. So you have a system that you've built. You can design the agent as to what process to follow. So if you have a finding like this, if it's a critical finding, send it to this person, raise a risk, and all of that. It all depends on how far or how much you want to design the system and what kind of activities you want it to do. But at this point, when it comes to investigations, that's where we have the human in the loop.
Thank you. Izuna, your hand is up. I have asked you to unmute. After we'll come about, right?
Thank you so much, Wale. I think I support the person that said this is magic. So well done, Kelvin, for this deep dive. You've really done an amazing job here, making work easier for people. So one question that was ringing in my mind is, do you have any particular risk rating score within that system, or do you leave it for the organization to set with respect to what they have?
I don't know if I'm still sharing my screen, Wally.
No, you are not.
No.
Okay.
Then, secondly, does this, you fixed in a third-party tool. Let's take, for example, HR, as you said. Let's take the Seamless tool. It's a third-party tool. So would it go in to analyze that third-party tool? How does it do that, considering it's not sitting in an environment from what you've just done? Or is it just only internal assets this can be used on?
Okay, I think that's a very good question. And the first one has to do with your risk, right? You mentioned about the risk scoring, or the organization has to do it themselves. And if you look at the inherent risk, where we have calculated that, the agent itself has done that for you to say, okay, this is a medium, this is the inherent risk, and this is the residual risk after the controls. And what it's done is that it's mapped the number of controls that is tied to the same or to one risk. So for this risk, we have about 3 controls that is governing that, and this has to do with your policy. These are the 3 controls. So the risk can range from medium to high, critical, and low. The system, the agents will do all of that for you based on your own internal policies that you've set. Like I said, apologies for that. Like I said, the system itself is working on your policies and what you have designed. So it's taking all of that, it's ingesting all of that to give you these outputs. You understand? Again, this is a prototype, okay? We're still building, but I'm also taking all the questions and ensuring that I can answer them as well as I can.
So Kevin, sorry for cutting, this risk rating of 15, which I'm assuming is maybe likelihood of 3 and impact of 5.
Yeah.
Is this something that the person or the organization defines? Some people might be using 4x4, some will be using 3x3. Is it the organization that designed it that way, or is the AI agent that just decide I want to use 5x5, or I want to use 4x4?
So again, at the level where we are ingesting the policy, you can put anything there.
Okay.
The level where you're ingesting a policy, whatever you've put in there is what the AI has converted and is using for you. You understand? So if you put in a 4x4, 3x2, or whatever standard you're implementing, it will go with that because that is its own guiding force. As you can see, it's not going to reference any policy that is not there, just 01 and 02, as you can see. So there's no 03 or 04 because it does not exist. And that is where the human control comes in. Where your knowledge stops, it's where its own implementation stops. It's not going to hallucinate. It's not going to, manufacture things that you've not given it. So that's the control you have, which is why we say that you have to also, upskill yourself and ensure that you're improving your knowledge on the system itself.
Okay.
I don't know if I'm able to answer your question.
Yeah, yes. The second one, is it for external only access,
Yes.
or it could also extend to maybe third party to consumer?
So in that area, the way we're designing the agent is in such a way that the agent is a staff, is a user. So the same way you have a user who is accessing that system is the same thing the agents will be doing. So since you're feeding the logs into your internal system, the agent will be like a user that is accessing that logs to create to make the same decisions you would have made if you were reviewing these things manually. You understand? So just look at the agent as a person, look at it as a staff, and you will understand that everything the person can do, the agent can do it as long as you've designed it in that way to carry out those actions for you.
Okay, let's move on. There's a question concern. Okay, Ugo has his hand up. Ugo, one question so that we can touch others. Our time is fast spent.
Yeah, it's just one question. Thanks, Kevin. I looked at the results of these controls and I saw that they are just one-liners. Is this like a generic one that you can go back and tweak? Because, recently, there's this regulation for people to actually make sure that their controls align with SOC standards. And those controls will have components of what, where, why, who, all those components. So is it something that you now need to, once these generic ones are generated, you take them and then upgrade to the SOC standards, or do you also train the agent to accomplish that for you?
Okay, I think that's a very good question. Two things. First of all, you can add controls, you can add risks manually when you feel like something is missing. And second of all, it still goes back to what you're ingesting into the system. The system is taking your data, it's taking your policy, and it's converting them to code. This was a sample. I'm just giving you a sample of what it can do, right? So if you have anything that has been defined as a standard you have to comply with, as fields you need to see, it's the same thing. You just need to ensure the agent or the system is ingesting the right data that you have defined. Like I said, you were not removing human beings from the equation. We're just putting you as part of the loop. And the agent is going to be doing all those drudgery work, those tiring works for you. So let's always go back to what we're ingesting into the system. And I think we'll be fine. Again, like I said, this is a prototype. So we're still getting better with it.
There's
Yes,
another
Henry.
question. There's someone. Henry, yeah,
Okay.
Henry, your hand, you have the mic. Short question, please.
Yeah, I think my question is already on the chat. I'll just read it the way it is. For the risk scoring, is the risk quantified, and what framework do you use for that? Because it looks like what we have is more of qualitative.
Yes. So at the point where you're adding your assets, you will see the scores already generated. You have the ability to, change the numbers and affect what you want to see at the point of generating the inherent risk for you. You'll see it there. There's a manual input where you can add more risk. You can adjust the numbers based on your environment or based on your organization's descriptions. I don't know if that's clear. A lot of things is also still dependent on us in the design phase. It's where the AI starts to run autonomously is at the execution of all the things you've put in as part of your design.
Essentially, it is endless possibility. It is you creating another human being, but this human being doesn't leave the office. So
Exactly.
everything that you can do that is in your policy around your risk methodology, risk ranking, maybe likelihood impact of 1 to 5 or 1 to 3, you can still, the agent can still take over that responsibility, but it's what you define for the system that it will run with. Okay, there's another question in the chat. I have a lot of questions today. Someone is asking, how seamless can this agent be integrated into a commercial bank's system?
I think I will say when we're done designing and move to the testing phase, please, whoever owns that question can reach out to me. And, once we're done, we can be able to address that, because right now we're still prototyping and playing around with different options. In terms of integrations, actually, we've seen that it's actually quite easy, because a lot of systems now have endpoints that you can consume as an external system. So I don't envisage a lot of challenges in that area.
All right, I can't see any other question. It seems you have handled all the questions. There's no hands raised, and I guess it's a good place and a good time to say thank you so much, Kevin. I guess people can reach out to you online, yes, right? So yes, Kevin is on LinkedIn. The post I made for this webinar, you can actually click on it to access Kevin, and he will be willing to have conversation with you. I think also you wanted to share a link for the audits in case anybody wants to try. I know they will run your money.
No, it's fine. It's fine.
Every prompt costs something.
Yeah, it's fine. They can actually
go and so you can try it out. I think Kevin, is this the one that we carry out an audit and you now want to write your report and it gives you the right words to use in your report?
Exactly.
All right, I think I remember. Thank you. I think we have just a few slides to go. Let me see. Thank you so much for the session and sharing with us tonight. Well, our time is far gone, and so I think we're done, except there's any other question. We're done. Cybersecurity Mentoring Group is on LinkedIn. You can join on the left-hand side, and also you can check the YouTube channel for the recording of previous editions of this conversation like this. This conversation will be live, if not this night, it will be live by tomorrow, but before Monday it will be live on YouTube, so you can catch up on in case you join late. So today's edition, which is January 31st, is the last for the month, and we're able to speak to 3 professionals in January. For February, we already booked. March, we already booked. So quarter one is actually sorted. So we have our speakers ready. After this conversation, I will be contacting the speaker for February 14th on the topic and the flyer. So it's been a wonderful edition, having conversation with everyone, and also the enthusiasm that everyone expressed in AI. I believe that there's more we can do to it. Like Kevin said, we shouldn't just allow AI, having there's an illustration Kevin gave that it's like you have a V6 engine and you are pushing it. AI is that V6, and you need the right knowledge to be able to get the best out of it. Is an assistant that is intelligent, so you need to give it the work to, but like Kevin said, it's limited to your limit. So if you are sending it on manual errand, it will run manual errand for you, albeit efficiently. So in order for you to get the best out of AI, you also need to understand the language of AI. And as you explore and apply, I hope that you make the best use of of the new wave of technology we have in the industry today. Thanks everyone for joining, and we will see you again. In case you are joining for the first time, this is Cybersecurity Mentoring Group, a platform where we learn, we share, we connect with professionals. If you sign up for the application security course, we will see you on Thursday next week. If you didn't sign up, I'm sorry, we can't take more people because is currently oversubscribed, and we are actually hoping that some people we give room for other people who are on the waiting list. But we have programs that we believe will help people to get better in what they do, and also to be able to explore the opportunity like the one we have today. So we invite professionals that can speak to us and we can get something from. Thanks everyone for joining, and we'll see you again hopefully next 2 Saturdays on 14th of February or on Thursday when we'll be having the application security course. Bye for now.